After we talked about ministry, made sure everything matches up, and everything did match up because God told us that we were meant to marry each other.
I live to you as my only love in life, to love you, honor you.
What is love? Well, everyone can have their desired definition of love. But when you ask Kelly Joy Wanyoni, an American woman living in rural Kenya, she will tell you that love means sacrifice.
I quit my job and I took all of my volunteer activities with church and gave them to someone else. I sold my car. I ended my contract with my apartment. I sold my piano. I used the money from the car and the piano to buy a one-way ticket to Kenya.
She loved a man in Kenya whom she could never talk to. She married a man here who had a strange proposal. But throughout this story, you will learn how love can make you do strange things and why strange things in love can turn out, but only 200,000 managed to achieve that. But what if I tell you that there are Americans who literally leave their paradise country to come to Africa? I mean, what can possibly make you leave a country everyone wishes to live in, to simply go and live in a certain African country? Sure enough, it's not money, nor is it some sort of good life. But then it can be love.
In my heart, I was hurting because I was falling in love with Albert because God told me he was my husband, so I allowed myself to have feelings for him.
You heard it right. Love can take you from the United States and bring you all the way down to Africa, down its most rural areas to be precise. And if you think we are exaggerating, let me introduce you to Kelly Joy Wanyoni.
My name is Carrie Joy Wanyoni.
The American to her.
My dream as a kid was to be a missionary and a farmer, but I didn't know I could do both. And here I am in Bungoma, Kenya, doing both of them now.
Now, she lives in a very remote town of Bumala in the far east of Kenya. We traveled more than 480 kilometers across roads, railroads, and rivers to come here and learn everything about her passion, but mostly her incredible love story.
And he couldn't speak English. He just greeted us in Bukusu. And he told us that he'd been praying for us along with the rest of the team. And as he was speaking and talking about how God was speaking to him, God spoke to my heart. He said, "That man is your husband. And that's why you didn't get married back home." He said, "This one's your husband." So I was a little bit excited that God told me who my husband was. But I didn't say anything because to me, I believe that God made the man to pursue the woman. So I waited and I didn't say anything. I said, if I heard right, if this man is really meant to be my husband, he will make a move for me. So I waited. For 3 months I waited. And he didn't speak to me. If I walked into a room where he was and I said, "Let me get to know this man who's supposed to be my husband," I would go to the room and he would run away. As soon as I got in the room, he would run away. I thought, this guy, Albert, he doesn't like me. He's running away from me for a reason. So I asked his brother one day, I said, "Does your brother not like me? Did I do something to offend your brother?" And then after that, Albert and I started talking, but he didn't know English. God gave me a vision, and he showed me that Albert was married to me. He showed me that without speaking any language, our hearts understood the other one's heart. I prayed when I got up that morning, and I said, "God, if this vision you've given me is of you, I understand that we know each other, that we understand the heart of the other person, and thank you. But please, allow one of us to learn the language of the other one. Because if we're to have children, if we're to run a household, we have to communicate somehow." So that day, the same day, I didn't know Albert was also praying at home for some time to be able to talk to me. God told Albert, "Speak English with Carrie." And he gave him the understanding of English. So he had small, kidogo understanding of English. So he came to the compound that I was staying in with the ministry, and he just greeted me in English. He said, "How are you?" Which I had never heard him say one word in English. I was very excited. I said, "I'm fine." You know, we say "I'm good" back home, but here people say "I'm fine."
On his side, Albert was dying alone. He clearly loved this woman, but had absolutely no idea on how he would present this idea, given that the two were raised in different cultures and had different languages. But being a man on a mission himself, Albert didn't agree to give up. He decided to follow up his flower gift with another ride across the town, which initially served to help Joy know around, even though he was ready to use the opportunity in his favor.
Hiyo siku ya kwanza kwangu nilikuwa na react.
The first time I saw her, I fell in love with her, but I kept my feelings to myself. As we talked and met multiple times, my feelings for her grew, and that's when I made a decision to tell her how I feel, even though it was very difficult. She wanted to know what I was trying to express. After some 3 days, I decided to approach her and try to speak English with her to see if we can somehow communicate. It was the first time I talked to her, and my first word to her was, "I love you." I said it in Kiswahili, not in English. She asked me to repeat it, and I got afraid that I might spoil the whole thing. Joy was able to notice that Albert had struggled a lot to express his feelings, but most importantly, she came to fully comprehend what he wanted. It fitted so perfectly on both sides, since each one was promised by God to marry the other.
But I was so worried because here in the Bukusu culture, you have to be able to cook ugali and have to cook it very well. It's not just like kind of cooking ugali. You have to get all the lumps out. You have to make it so it's not sticky. You can handle it well, not too dry. And the mother-in-law is supposed to watch you and see if you can cook good ugali to take care of her son. So that began to trouble my mind. We went to the store. We sat down and we started eating some lunch just there at the store at Tesha. We got some pilau and we were splitting one plate of pilau and saying, I said, Albert, I don't know, I know God told me I'm your wife, but I can't cook ugali. I don't know how. He said, my wife, I will cook the ugali. And that was the moment that I knew he wasn't trying to say I love you because I'm a Mzungu. Because a lot of people will tell you I love you because you're a Mzungu. And they think you can get them back to America. They think you have some money, something to give to them. I had many people trying to marry me before Albert. But I kept, you can tell when something is fake. But this one was real. And he said, I will cook the ugali. He was stepping outside of the cultural norm so that he can show me that his heart is there.